Habits and motivation, what you need to know for lasting change with me, Tracy Bevan from Positive Being. In this two-part programme, we're going to look at habits, how they work and how we can use them to our benefit. In this first session, we're going to be looking at why motivation may not be enough to make lasting change. And we'll also look at habits, what they are and how we can use them. In my second video, I'm going to cover hope, that magic ingredient. And I'll be giving you some hints and tips that can help you form those healthy new habits. Have you ever had a habit that you wanted to shift, but felt so stuck you can't even see that change is an option for you? Have you tried before and failed, perhaps many times? Each time the mountain between you and your goal can seem more insurmountable. Now there are a few people out there who seem to be able to decide to change a habit and just go ahead and do that. But if that isn't you and your experience, then you're not alone. For the majority of us, change just doesn't work like that. This is called the intention behaviour gap, where our motivation isn't enough to get us going or doesn't seem to last the distance. Now don't get me wrong, motivation is a helpful starting point. It's that drive to go for a goal that we want. But when it comes to long-term change, it can be a well that quickly runs dry. So why is that? And that's because conscious intentions don't translate to behaviour change. Most often, they'll only have a limited effect on how we behave. Have you ever watched a toddler exploring their surroundings? Everything is new to them. Life, one big playground full of learning opportunities. And then when an object or an emotion is experienced enough times, our brain starts to use shortcuts so that we can build on what we already know. These allow our brains to run along tracks of connection taking us from A to B with no conscious thinking necessary. We navigate daily actions like getting dressed, driving to work, without a second thought, leaving the decision-making part of our brain free for the bigger stuff, those more complex actions. So what used to take us a lot of effort to manage can be assigned to the back of our minds. They become unconscious processes. And that's great, we need these shortcuts, but it also has its drawbacks. One big drawback is what happens when we decide we want something different. What if we decide to aim for point C, but keep finding ourselves back at stop B? It's like when you're driving home on automatic pilot after you've just moved house and you pull up to find yourself at the old address. Habits and impulses that are triggered by specific situations in our daily lives, like getting into our car to drive home, they're hard to control. And following these tracks of non-conscious processes can result in us over-engaging in some unhealthy choices. At some point, maybe you decided, I'll have a cigarette with my coffee break today. And this thought process quickly becomes automated, so we can't think coffee or break without the desire for a cigarette being triggered. And daily situations are nudging us all the time towards these habitual actions of ours. And it can be really hard to reverse that process. So even with the conscious intention of not smoking, it stays really difficult to keep saying no. So what are habits and how do they trip us up? And how can we use them to help ourselves? Well, habits are basically mental shortcuts. We're carrying out an action or behaviour in response to a cue that might be so ingrained they don't even enter our awareness. Many of our actions can seem automatic and out of our control because we are no longer consciously deciding to do them. In fact, consciously making a decision takes a surprising amount of time and energy. And that's why our willpower runs low if you've just finished a difficult task, or if we're tired, or low on the glucose our brains use for complex functions like decision making. Now at these times, finding that self-regulation to not take a bite out of that donut, well, it becomes really difficult. Charles Duhigg, in his book The Power of Habit, describes a habit loop. This is a three-part cycle. A cue that prompts a routine or behaviour, which results in a reward. This is motivation's stumbling block, because a cue, like the coffee break, triggers a craving, the cigarette, which even if we manage to say no to in the short term, is still there in the background, unsatisfied. We're left with a subconscious desire that we're expecting, and at some point our motivation or just our awareness tends to falter, and we reach for the packet. It's these cravings that drive our habits. And to break the cycle, we need to learn how to satisfy the craving by replacing the old reward with a new, healthier choice. And the good news is that this same cycle of cues and responses can be put to work to help us. The evidence shows that we can form new healthy habits, ones that help us to meet our goals, using this same process. And this is where you need to start doing some detective work, to start being aware of your everyday routines and actions. Start paying attention, and you can make unconscious choices conscious again, giving you the chance to step in and make a new decision, a decision to change. So let's explore what your cues and routines are that drive the habit that you want to shift. Firstly, what are the routines you have around that habit? How and when does it show up in your life? Are there certain times of day when you always reach for the biscuits, say? And keep a notebook or phone with you for a few days or a week and jot down all the times throughout the day where you notice the urge to snack or to smoke, whatever your habit is. Write down the answers to the questions that are here on the slide. Where are you? What are you doing? The time? Who is around in the environment? And how are you feeling? Try and do that straight away to get the most accurate picture you can. And this way you can look for patterns and the key triggers that spark the craving. But it doesn't end there. You need to do some more digging. And with the information that you now have about times and places that your habit kicks in, think about what need you're really looking to satisfy with that old behaviour. That might seem an obvious question. It might simply be the sugar, the alcohol, the nicotine that your body craves. But psychological addiction often stays with us long after physical addiction has passed. So try looking to see if there are any deeper motives. Was there an underlying reason for the initial decision? It could be boredom, social anxiety, a way to manage stress, or it could have been the social group that you were in. The real needs you're trying to fulfill may be more complicated than you think. And if it isn't addressed, the old ways of dealing with the problem will be there lurking in the background. Because old habits aren't erased, we only overwrite them with better options. And so slipping back into unhealthy patterns is something that needs to be planned for. Uncovering deeper motives can also point us towards what might be the best reward for new positive behaviours. Try out different options and see what reward can best offer you the satisfaction and stimulus that you need to outweigh the old cravings. So rewards could be mental, like striving for targets by keeping track of weight loss or exercise steps on an app. They could be physical, like treating yourself by using the money you've saved from giving up smoking. Or they can be emotional, like the positive feelings you get because of your success, or the social contact that you enjoy by exercising with a friend. What you're looking for is the thing that's going to give you that spark and the tenacity to keep going. And this is going to be individual to each of us and also to the craving that you're looking to satisfy. That new reward needs to fire your desire to keep going. The more meaningful it is to you, the better it's going to work. So think about it. See yourself experiencing it. Perhaps it's a fitter, slimmer self. Anticipate it, because these visualizations help create the craving that drives the habit. And you can use these images when temptation strikes and you need motivation the most. And lastly, and importantly, do cut yourself some slack. Change is tough. Anyone who tells you otherwise is probably trying to sell you something. The miracle weight loss pill, the exercise program that will change your life in 3 weeks. That myth of new habits taking just 21 days has no scientific basis. The truth is, change takes effort and time. How much time can vary a lot, and we and the goals we set ourselves are all different. There's no magic formula, no one solution fits all. So the message is, keep going. It'll get easier, because every time you repeat the behaviour, it's another step towards forming the new habit and making that behaviour more automatic. And if you take one thing away from today, just remember to be kind to yourself when hiccups happen. Slip-ups, they're not the end of the road. They're just chances for us to take a deep breath, take stock of how far you've come, and then keep going. Because with each step on your path, you'll find that you're building your own superpower, and that is hope. And to find out more about that, please visit my website, www.positivebeing.co.uk, and sign up to get the second part of this recording. Thank you for listening.